Eddie, we're live.
I always think it's you. I think when you get on here, we had so many good shows with Ryan and Coach before the intro.
And I just start chucking up 3-pointers and messing it all up, right?
And now you're here.
I'll play
and
it.
The intro's not playing. So
right.
Please play the intro and I'll figure out what's happening.
I'll do it. We'll do it live. Do it live.
Makes sense for what happened tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. Teams falling apart. Post-game shows falling apart. Our pets' heads are falling off. Okay, here we go. Let's try this again. Show starting about as well as the Nebraska game did.
You're listening to the Back Home Network, presented by Home Field Apparel.
And welcome, Hoosier fans, to another disappointed but unfortunately not really surprised episode of the Assembly Call, as tonight your Indiana Hoosiers fall once again by double digits to the Nebraska Cornhuskers, 85-68, in a game where Indiana fell behind big early, made a nice comeback to get back into it, battled back in the second half to be down by just 1 point at 68-67, and then the bottom just fell out. Indiana couldn't make any shots. Indiana couldn't get any stops, and the Hoosiers fall to 1-1 in conference play, 8-3 overall, and they continue their very strange and concerning trend this season of when they losing bad by double digits. And of course, the games they've won all of those by double digits. Unfortunately, none of those have been really against an impressive opponent. And that's why I think a lot of people were looking at tonight's game to kind of see, what is this team? You know, I mean, obviously we struggled in the Bahamas against Louisville and Gonzaga, but, you know, maybe that was just a bad kind of 24-hour stretch. And what we've seen in some of these other games is kind of more who we are. But tonight, unfortunately, Indiana fans got a dose of reality, perhaps. I mean, hopefully not. Obviously, we hope Indiana can bounce back. But the Hoosiers continue their struggles against Nebraska, continue their struggles on the road in Big Ten play, and fall 85-68. I'm your host, Jared Morris, here with Coach Brian Tonsoni and Ryan Phillips. We are going to break it all down for you on this edition of the Assembly Call IU postgame show. And there's a lot of, you know, kind of different, interesting stuff to talk about. The game at least kind of looked and felt differently than some of the other ones have. But let's start this show the way we start every show. That is with our Hoosier Proud banner moment. And for the banner moment, I'm going to go back to the second half. Indiana, as I said, started out the first half poorly, played pretty well there for a stretch in the first half, down by 3 at the half, but Nebraska came out and looked like they were going to seize control. You know, as we're going to talk about, Indiana took a lot of 3-pointers, and I thought early in the second half, they really started taking 3-pointers a little bit out of rhythm, early off of just a few passes to the perimeter, not really probing the defense, and the offense just really stagnated. Nebraska takes a lead by 9 points, and Miles Rice kind of took matters into his own hands and had a stretch where he scored 13 straight points for Indiana to pull the Hoosiers back, to a point where they were challenging in the second half before the bottom fell out, as I said. But Rice scored in a variety of ways, had a steal and layup, hit a jumper off a drive, drove and got fouled, hit a 3-pointer. It was a huge stretch for Indiana's lead guard. And it's the kind of stretch that sometimes you need on the road in the Big Ten. You're not always going to be able to go to your bread and butter down low. You're not always going to have someone coming off the bench and providing a big lift. Sometimes you just need your guard to go be the best player on the court. And for at least that stretch, Miles Rice was that. It obviously proved to not be enough. But those are the kinds of performances that Indiana is going to need from Miles Rice if the Hoosiers are going to compete on the road in Big Ten play and start actually winning some of these games. He finished with 20 points, and so kind of struggled outside of that. But that stretch was really key to give Indiana a chance, pull them back from the brink in the second half, and make the second half competitive for a little while until those final 3 or 4 minutes. All right, our banner moment, as always, brought to you by our friends at Home Field Apparel, now in their 8th season sponsoring the Assembly Call and their 4th as the presenting sponsor for the Back Home Network. Home Field, as you know, has the largest collection of vintage IU apparel that you will find anywhere. And since IU is their flagship school, you know that more high-quality gear with unique IU logos from the past is always right around the corner. And sometimes it's not from the past. As you saw this week with Home Field Apparel releasing some great college football playoff gear, T-shirts, hoodies, crew necks, with the college football playoff logo on it. Also a really cool IU versus Notre Dame shirt that they put out. And they've got their new, like, kind of those vintage knit sweaters. And Indiana was one of the opening schools for that. I think there's about 20 schools that were in the initial launch for that. It's got this really cool script, Indiana University, on it. So it's just, there's always something at Home Field Apparel. That's why you've got to be following them on Twitter, subscribe to the text message, subscribe to the emails, because there's always something new and interesting coming out. I just ordered something yesterday. I think it can still get here by Christmas. So make sure that you go there. If you've got some Christmas shopping to do, you can do that. They've got lots of deals going on, but if you need a promo code, you can use our promo code HOME23. That'll get you 15% off your entire first order. That's promo code HOME23 for 15% off. Once again, the website homefieldapparel.com. Wear one for the team. All right, well, it's time to move the ball, find the open man, and get some opening thoughts from the rest of our team. And, Coach, we will start with you. It is Tonsoni time. What's on your mind?
Disappointing end to the game, obviously. A 17-1 run and 1 of 18 shooting down the stretch to what had been a competitive game to that point. You mentioned the slow start, and that's never good. But I thought this team really was competing, maybe not executing well. Defensively, obviously, was very, very, very poor tonight, I thought. But they were doing a lot of other things offensively, and they were getting out in transition. I thought the early offense was really, really good. And Indiana was scoring points and shooting three-pointers, and it was 68-67 with 7:10 left to go, and I thought it was entertaining. I didn't necessarily think it was good, especially the defensive end, but I thought it was entertaining, and it was college basketball as we've come to watch other programs. It was closer to that, and then the last 7:10 happened, and there was nothing to pull out of the hat, nothing done to try to fix that. It just kind of exploded on Indiana. And then really when you look at it now as a whole, consistency, we've used the word consistency, we've used the word up and down. When is this team going to get a identity? And even in a little more modern offense, we forgot about the post, which isn't what good programs do either. You don't just chuck up threes. You have a balance and those things. So, it's just a disappointing end. It brings back a lot of things that a lot of people are struggling with. When you thought they're at 68-67, man, we pull this one out. They made some strides, and they could have gone forward from this, but then that last 7 was, kind of Bahama-type basketball, and that just sticks in all our minds as really bad basketball. So the last 7 minutes leave a real sour taste in my mouth tonight after what I thought could have been a real big growing point for our Indiana Hoosiers.
Yep. Ryan, what's your rant this evening?
Yeah, I said this on Twitter X. And
Twitter.
Yeah, it's Twitter. At some point, Indiana has to start winning these games. I mean, road games against the bottom half of the conference opponent where you're in the game. It wasn't just a sleepwalk game where they showed up and got blown out the doors. And you're like, and halfway through, you're like, all right, just pack it in, get ready for the next game. This is a game they were in late and then just fell apart and allowed the home team to take advantage. I mean, Nebraska's not what Nebraska was last year, where they were, expected to be, or where they wound up being pretty darn good. They're one of the bottom teams in the conference, especially through the metrics. And Indiana it winds up losing by a significant chunk of points. I mean, they wind up losing by 17. At some point, if you're a good program with talented players and you're a well-run program, you win these games. This is a game you win. Steal a road game in December before they get to get their stuff together as a team that's not projected to be really good. So that's where I'm at, is that, like, until Indiana can win games like this, it's not going to be taken seriously as a great program. Just like until you can go to one of those tournaments and upset a bigger name team like Gonzaga, you're not going to be considered a great program. And so it's just another thing that this program has to get over. Neutral court games against good teams, you've got to win some of those. Road games against the bottom half of your conference, you've got to win those. And Indiana's going to play a lot of better teams than this on the road this season. And if they can't beat Nebraska, if they're getting beat by 17 against Nebraska, when they actually put in a decent effort, that does not bode well for the future. So this is a team, I know, again, early in the season, they've got a lot to work on, but this is the kind of game they have to win. And this is the kind of game that if you're going to be competing for a Big Ten title, you're going to be competing for a top 4 spot in the Big Ten, and you're expected to make a run to the Sweet 16, and you have all those expectations, this is one of those games you got to get. And now they could replace it against a better team down the road. That's fine. But this is one of those games you got to win, I think, as a program, to let people know you need to fear us when we come to town. And they let it get away from them. They were in it. The effort was fine. I didn't have a problem with the effort tonight. That's been an issue at some points this season. The effort was fine. I just thought it was misguided. And I just thought they let the other team dictate everything.
I mean, you're absolutely right. For this Indiana team to fulfill the preseason expectations, they have to win some of those games. Honestly, right now, I would take just competing in one of these games as a step forward.
Yeah. I mean, you lose by 3, you feel different about this.
I mean,
for 40 minutes.
Yes.
Because Indiana did compete for a while. They just didn't do it for 40 minutes.
Right. But that's the thing. There was a path tonight to playing a good game that we felt good about, and maybe you lose by 2 or 3 points. Really good teams have gone in and lost at Nebraska. It's a tough place to play.
It's a tough place to play. Yeah.
But I think what's disappointing is, again, you have that horrible start where you just don't look ready to play, but you have a really mature response to it. You bounce back. Again, you're down by 1. Coach, as you said, whenever Goody hit that 3-pointer with 6-7 minutes left, it's a 1-point game right there. Now, again, you may lose that game, but you can't lose by 17. I mean, what happens? Where's the internal leadership? Where's the leadership on the sidelines to kind of pull you back from that happening? And that's part of the problem with this program is you just have these moments, these stretches where for 5 or 6 minutes, it's like everybody just loses their minds. And that's really hard to have 1 or 2 of those in every game against good teams and try to actually win those. So, I don't know, obviously, what the answer is to do that. But that, I guess that's the sad thing, Ryan, is I'm hearing you say, this is a game we need to win. This is a game we need to win. And I'm thinking, man, we just need to compete in one of these until the end.
I mean, that's a fair point. I mean, it's playing a full 40 minutes on the road, which, I mean, God, I don't remember the last time they did that consistently. It's not just the Woodson era. I'm talking before that.
Yeah.
Road games have been an issue for this program for a long time. But I think, you look at the fact that they gave up 85 points tonight. And yeah, it's a road game against a team that plays a wide open offense and attacks, but you gave up 85 points and you were by far the more talented team. And it's, I don't care if you are not used to playing together, if you're not used to playing in the system, whatever, you are more talented than the other team. Go beat them. Just go beat them and don't let them beat you. It's at some point it comes down to that. And they were just getting beaten too often. They got into foul trouble because of, I get some people have problems with the officiating. I thought the officiating was bad both ways. I'm the first one to jump on the officials. I thought the officiating was bad both ways. There was some ticky-tack stuff, whatever. It wound up being about even across the board on fouls and free throws. So I don't think we can complain too much about that. There were some untimely fouls, but in general, they just got beaten. And, the other thing is they had the effort to go get, I don't know how many offensive rebounds they wound up with.
15.
It was 15. And then second chance points, they just weren't converting
10.
them. They only had 10 second chance points on 15 offensive rebounds. You've got to take advantage of that, especially on the road. If the other team makes a mistake, you have to make them pay. And not blocking you out, not giving up a rebound is making a mistake. You have to make them pay. And they didn't. And it's those little things that add up to a 17-point loss. This wasn't one. I mean, this was a big run at the end, but they had plenty of opportunities before that to make this a 10-point lead as opposed to an even game. And they just missed and missed and missed and missed and missed. And that adds up. And then finally Nebraska gets it together and just boat races you at the end. And you're setting yourself up for failure if you don't do those little things. And I feel like this team didn't do those little things tonight.
Yeah. Coach, you lose a game by 17 points. There's going to be things on offense and things on defense that you could have done better. One of the big storylines coming out of this game is going to be the 3-point shooting. Let's table that for a second because we're going to talk about it, just the wild amount of attempts. But the biggest storyline for me coming out of this game is the defense. Indiana gave up 85 points to a Nebraska team that I think coming into this game was 99th in adjusted offensive efficiency in KenPom. It was somewhere around there. This is a Nebraska team that has been much more defined by good defense this season. When they went into Creighton and won, they held Ryan Kalkbrenner to 4 points. It was the first time he had been in single digits since like January of last season. So they've played good defense. They've defended post guys well. They've done some of the things that we saw them do to us tonight on the offensive end. But defensively, to give up 85 points to this team, I think on the one hand, you got to tip your cap to a guy like Bryce Williams, who was terrific, made tough shots. They played smart. And it's just yet another game where we see Wisconsin kind of run circles around Indiana, cut where they want to, get the shots that they want to. They didn't have Keisei Tominaga running around hitting threes from everywhere. It was a different formula, but the result was the same. And, this is obviously a very concerning trend because this team defensively just is not very good. And it wasn't necessarily, Nebraska just standing outside and making a bunch of threes. I mean, they did make 8 of them. They only took 14 attempts. So Indiana limited some of the threes. But that's because Nebraska was pretty much getting everything they wanted inside. So, how do you assess the defense? I mean, in terms of what the primary culprits were for Indiana? And did you see any areas of progress or any things that we can hold on to where it was like, hey, this was kind of good, and if we can keep doing this, maybe it's something to build on? Because right now, I'm not seeing a lot of hopeful signs for us defensively.
No, there were a couple really good comments in our chat. One was from Daniel Riggs. And he said some of our better scorers have difficulty guarding the ball. That's not Miles Rice. Miles Rice had a great game, and he can guard, but he got beat off the dribble. I know in talking to people that it was an emphasis this year of playing, getting up and in people and ball pressure and limiting drives to the lane. And Indiana's not doing that, even with Miles Rice. But this is where coaching matters. And Hoiberg understood who the weak defenders were on Indiana and got them in situations and then attacked. Mbako, you could see it right away. Once he got his foul, they drove him, and they got a second foul, and that played to their advantage. Then they attacked Tucker. Then they attacked Goody. So we have talent, and Burger Smash said this too, is that he said something about kind of tired of talking about how talented we are because you got to be talented on both sides of the basketball. And I think Burger Smash has a really good thing there. That's just his YouTube name. I don't know what his real name is.
I appreciate you saying his name with a straight face, though.
Yeah. But you have to have defense. Defense is a talent, too. And we have, and I think the guys are giving effort. I just think physically they're outmatched. And then the scheme, what's the fundamentals in the scheme? We're not in practice, but it's not translating. When we were heavy nail slot rim, we were giving up a lot of threes. Now we're hugging and staying closer to cutters. And then we foul all the time. We are too aggressive in trying to stop the drive, or Indiana is. I'm not playing. And so then we foul. And then we get people in foul trouble. So, along the lines of ball watching and not helping on weak side was really bad today when they had the little slips on the side pick and roll. So fundamentals, but I don't know that we're really individually good at guarding the bounce. And some of the lineups will set that too. When you have a 4 and 2 5s out there guarding modern basketball, you're going to get driven. I think Carlisle and Rice and Galloway do a really good job as much as they possibly can, but the rest of the team cannot guard the bounce. And then when we help the bounce, then we give up threes. If we don't help the drive, we give up drives and offensive rebounds and dunks. So it's really something now that you either got to fix the fundamentals or you got to fix the scheme in order for this team to compete defensively, in my opinion. And if I'm seeing it and Burger Smash is seeing it and Daniel Riggs is seeing it, the damn coaching staff needs to see it, right? We just need to get better defensively, and the program has fallen, if I remember right, defensively every year under Mike Woodson in defensive efficiency.
I was shocked how high we are this year, but it's early.
Yeah. And so,
we're down to 67 now.
Again,
still, that's higher than I thought.
Nothing's worse than watching Ryan Phillips play defense. He's a shot doctor. He can shoot, but he can't guard anybody. And Ryan tries.
Excuse me. I was a bulldog on that end.
You are. I bet you foul and slap like a.
I was actually a better defender than I was.
There is no excuse for bad defense.
Mark Young says Burger Smash or Burger Mash doesn't have a clue, so they were friends at least a while. We got a little trash talking going on in the chat mob, but I just think this team is just going to struggle quite a bit just stopping the guy in front of him. And until that gets fixed, if it can physically, this team's going to struggle defensively.
Well, that's the thing. I know this is an obvious thing to say, but if you give up 85 points, you better be able to score 90. And to only get 68 against Nebraska, I mean, I know Nebraska has been a better defensive team this year, but if you're going to be that bad defensively, you better make up for it on the offensive end, and they're just not consistently doing that. And so it's if you're going to be the Showtime Lakers and score the college version of that, score 90 points a game, fine, give up 85, I don't care, but they're not doing that, and that's the issue. Is just they're not those offensive players who are so talented are not doing what they need to do if they're going to be that bad defensively.
And like Coach said, I mean, some of these guys have some individual limitations, and the problem is some of the lineups they're played in doesn't give them a chance to hide. It doesn't give you the chance, like what you might do with a guy like Mackenzie Mbaku, who's a really good offensive player, struggles defensively. You got to have good lineups that allow you to maximize his strengths and minimize his weaknesses. And sometimes, Coach, like tonight, it feels like the weaknesses get maximized. And that's why things like this happen, where you just get this run that you can't stop.
They get maximized because Hoiberg can coach, and he knows how to handle, the mismatches, and his players understand where to attack and when to attack, and so you've got to outsmart that, and but the players need to step up too and guard your yard. I mean, some of this tonight was on the players, I'm not really happy with the whole program necessarily, but tonight missed shots and getting beat off the drive takes a little pride and play a little better. So tonight was, and I know the chat's all upset about Woodson and everything, but tonight was really players' execution was not good enough to win this game. I thought everything else, and that could still be part of the problem of the coaching staff and practices not building technique and fundamentals. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying tonight we didn't guard, and then down the stretch we went 1 of 18 shooting and took bad shots, and that's on the players.
Well,
so
also, let me add one last thing to that. It's the defense, and it's these players. It's talking about they just didn't guard, and I don't disagree, Coach. I think you're right, but at the same time, are they fits for what Indiana is trying to do defensively? And so far this season, absolutely not. And it's one of the things, can they develop into the guys that fit this defensive system? Who knows? I mean, we'll see in a month if we feel the same way. I mean, I have a hard time seeing this changing dramatically as they move forward. They might be better at home, in a comfortable environment than they were on the road. But I just think that this defensive system, we've said it for years, is very tough for modern players to fit into because it's not based on modern principles. It's an old defense that is not geared toward the modern game. So you're making players from now do what you expected players from 25 years ago to do, and it's just not working. And so I think we've seen Woodson adjust that system in the past to maybe not be as adhered to those principles of the nail slot rim, but I don't know if and you can't scrap it mid-season and just start over. I mean, it's impossible to do midstream. So it'll just be interesting to see how this works out and what they do moving forward. Again, they're going to stick with it for a while and see if these guys can get on the same page. But if by mid-January it's not working, you got to consider some changes.
But Ryan, they didn't really play it a whole lot tonight. They were tight. They were tight, almost too tight on the weak side. When you got the little short roll from the side pick and roll, they weren't coming over to help. So there was an adjustment away from the heavy help tonight, and then it was more of a there was. Yeah. It was just more of a regular defense, which I was kind of glad to see. But then you got to guard your yard.
You got to have the effort. Yeah.
You got to stop people from getting into the lane, and if not, then you got to send help. Like Leo helps off the corner early and gives up a wide open three, and they bang a three. And even I forget who the announcers were tonight. He says you can't help from a strong side corner, and most coaches teach that stay on the strong side corner and let that guy go get contested twos.
Yeah. Especially with Ballo back there.
And it just some of the two guys and hunting block shots and no one cracking down, and then you throw it and the guy dunks. That stuff's got to be eliminated, right? And that has habits. You go back to habits. Yep. You've got to have proper habits. I thought the guys competed tonight, and I know I'll catch a lot of hell in the chat for that. I thought they competed. I thought they played hard. Then maybe the last 7 minutes they hung their heads a little bit, which is very, very disappointing if that is the case. But I thought they competed. They just didn't play well defensively. Goody was trying. Leo was trying when he was out there. Tucker was trying. They're just getting beat.
The thing is, Coach, I have several of these listed down in my meaningful moments list. There were several hustle plays in transition. So there was effort. There was awareness there because that's the only way that you make plays.
The block by Goody was fantastic. It was one of the best plays.
Absolutely.
Flacco had one. Rice had one. So I agree with you. I think there was some want to tonight. The problem is there wasn't a lot of able to, like at some point,
right,
as you said, you got to be able to keep your man in front of you. And I think that's a combination of your physical attributes, your skills, and also just it comes down to mentality and grit sometimes with defense. And I think sometimes our guys kind of have that first level, but don't always show the next level. And there's no scheme that can make up for that. Any defensive scheme has to be played by 5 guys operating together and just committed to that guy's not going to score. And sometimes you see that, but not enough, not consistently. And that's where you see the whole thing kind of break down.
That dude hit some shots late too, or it wouldn't have been 15 either. The Williams kid. You got to give him a little tip of the cap.
You do. You got to make guys uncomfortable too, and he was comfortable and just rising up and shooting. So rough game defensively. Okay, but we are going to talk about the shooting. We're going to table it for the next segment. Quick reminder to go to assemblycall.com, subscribe to our free email newsletter. We send out our 6-banner Sunday every week to keep you updated on what's going on with IU sports. And then for our premium subscribers, you get Tony Adranya's IU Film Room, which he sent out a great one yesterday, kind of comparing Miles Rice, what he was doing when he was successful at Washington State, and what he's been doing this year. And you kind of saw some of it with his ability to drive at times against Nebraska. So that's what our subscribers get. So go to assemblycall.com, check that out. But coming up, we are going to talk about 3-point shooting as we continue our breakdown of Indiana's loss to Nebraska. We'll talk about that as we point out tonight's meaningful moments you might have missed. And then we'll go inside the numbers to highlight the most important statistical notes from the game. You are listening to the Assembly Call. Stick with us.
Hey guys, it's Gene Steratore, CBS officiating analyst and retired Big Ten basketball official. I have never listened to the Assembly Call, and to be honest, I don't intend to. But if you listen, make sure you ignore anything Ryan says about officiating. He's really good from the seat of his pants, but I wouldn't trust him on the court with a whistle around his neck. Time has proven him wrong on virtually everything. Take care. We'll talk soon.
I defended the officials tonight.
Harsh one on the night when you actually defended the officials. I was going to say.
And Gene,
that never gets old.
As I always say, Gene, he ends that by saying, we'll talk soon. No, we won't. Unless you're coming on the show, we're not going to talk soon.
It's my favorite part.
My son, for our fantasy football team, got Gene to do the draft. We didn't do a draft, but he ran down some results and everything. It was well done. So,
really?
So Gene's
awesome.
Making a killing on some of those recordings.
Yeah, he is.
So I guess he did talk again.
Yeah, he talked to you. Okay.
Talked to me, but not Ryan.
No. Yeah. Maybe after tonight, Ryan, now that you've defended the officials. All right. You're listening to the Assembly Call IU postgame show. I'm Jared Morris here with the coach Brian Tunt, Sony Ryan Phillips. We are breaking down Indiana's 17-point loss to Nebraska. And it is time now, gentlemen, for tonight's meaningful moment that you might have missed.
Meaningful moments that you might have missed.
This segment brought to you by our friends at Hoosier Ticket Project, where they help individuals and families experience IU athletic events in person for the first time through the generosity of alumni and fans. To learn more about how you can donate money or extra tickets to help create meaningful moments for other IU fans, visit HoosierTicketProject.org. That's HoosierTicketProject.org. All right, guys, let's talk meaningful moments. I want to go to the second half and use this as a lead-in to talk about the three-point shooting. I thought in the first half, Indiana was 5 of 15 from three-point range. I believe we took 14 twos, 15 threes. And for the most part, I thought the shot selection on the threes was pretty good, with one caveat. You had Bryson Tucker and Kanan Carlisle who took 7 of them. But that was with Mackenzie Mbako playing like 38 seconds. And so if he had played his normal allotment of minutes in the first half, then he's taken 4 or 5 of those threes, with Goody taking 3 and Galloway taking 3. Like, that's a shot diet I can get behind. Because Indiana was making them. They were shooting them in rhythm. It felt like they were coming out of the offense. It was really a breath of fresh air. to see. Now, in the second half, I thought Indiana came out and just started rushing threes, taking them off one or two passes, not really in rhythm. And this is where, we have never advocated for just chucking threes. We want three-point shooting to just be an organic part of Indiana's offense.
Yeah.
That's what it felt more like in the first half. And so later in the second half, the moment I want to point out is when it was 68-64. Indiana had a possession where they moved the ball, they moved the defense, several passes. Oumar Ballo got the ball, I think, at the top of the key, took a dribble in, drew the defender, and kicked it out to Luke Goody on the wing for a three. It was easily the best look of the second half. He was in rhythm. He drained it. Those are the three-pointers that we need to be taking when we've actually probed the defense. It's not about threes. It's about threes and layups. And the problem is Indiana just wasn't even really trying. Now, some of this was how Nebraska was defending us. I think they were happy to let us stand out there and shoot them. But Indiana really wasn't probing the defense enough, getting the ball inside enough. And so you look at it at the end of the day, Indiana takes 35 three-pointers tonight, 20 in the second half, and Mackenzie Mbako only takes 1. So on the one hand, I'm happy to see more three-pointers go up. Don't get me wrong. But I'm not overall, I don't think it was a sign of good offense tonight, Coach. Because I think, when you end with Malik Reneau and Oumar Ballo only taking 10 shots, and when you take 35 threes, but your best three-point shooter is only getting 1, that means you probably have a lot of guys taking them and probably taking them in situations that you don't want. The goal is a happy medium, balanced offense where you're getting layups, you're getting threes, the right guys are shooting. And so just seeing that number and seeing our three-point rate go up doesn't make me happy because it wasn't really the product, I didn't think, in some cases, of good offense. Some of them were, like I said, in the first half and some of the ones in the second half, but there were probably 10 to 12 of those three-pointers that are by the wrong guys at the wrong time. And so, I know because I saw some people on Twitter, it's like, oh, well, I guess just taking more threes isn't going to win the game. It's like, no, of course not, if they're the wrong ones. And I thought too often, especially, too often in the second half, they didn't seem as in rhythm and as organically part of the offense as what you saw in the first half.
What we saw in the first half, and again, I think there's a lot of good tonight early until the end, was Nebraska was really good at two-point defense, and they were coming hard on the trap. Right when you would turn a shoulder, they were going to be there. And Indiana was able to kick out of that a couple times and get nice rhythm, kick out threes on the weak side. You also saw guards skipping the ball over the help because Nebraska was in heavy help. That's good basketball. And then you also saw, guys, is that we were doing the throwback after we were coming off middle ball screens, and the help was shifting to the side of where the ball screen was going. We were throwing it back to a wide-open three-point shooter who was lifting away from the help, and we got good looks. Like, all of that was really good, and it had to be some preparation from the coaching staff in order to do that. Here's how you beat a heavy help side, heavy doubling the post team. We're going to have to shoot more threes, and Indiana looked consistent in that. But the problem is you still got two good post players. Now you got to find a creative way to make sure they're getting the ball. I think Reneau had 9 and Ballo had 8 at the first half. Ballo ends up with 8 in the game. And so you allowed their defense to dictate you to go away. And what we're advocating is to add threes to the program, not take all threes and give up Reneau and Ballo inside. Be creative in getting those guys inside and play off of all of the good things that you did with 3. But to me, it was just like, we're going to do this tonight, and if we don't get just the easy post up, we're not going to go in to the post. And then they run that nice little lob play Galloway did. You have to do more of that and still go to your – I mean, our post players are still good. You still go to your good post players even though you shoot an appropriate amount of threes. So – but I thought Indiana was really trying to do some stuff. They ran some floppy, double pin downs to the corners. There was a lot more movement in the first half, and I agree with you. In the second half, it felt like everyone was trying to win the game every possession, and the wrong players were taking shots. And then what you got to question, guys, is when Miles Rice is on a 13-0 heater. I know he took a heat check, and then at that point you probably got to stop, but you can allow him to take a heat check. But when Tucker takes a heat check and then Carlisle takes a heat check and they're contested, and then you hear in the timeout, the Nebraska coach Hoiberg saying, contesting, well, don't take contested threes. You want wide open threes. And so, yeah, some good, some bad, but that's Indiana basketball here in the last 8 years is lack of consistency. But I did think there was some preparation against Nebraska's strong defense, or Indiana wouldn't been 68-67. There probably wasn't a whole lot of correction, though, maybe in the second half if people wanted to get picky. But I really liked what they did in the first half. I thought it was entertaining. I thought it was good. Obviously wasn't good enough to win.
No, I mean, Coach, I'm with you. I think that's what makes this game frustrating is I think you can kind of tell, like, from our text chat and just kind of looking on Twitter, like there was about a, 25-minute stretch of this game that people were enjoying. It was like, this is fun basketball. Indiana's competing. We're on the road. You took that punch at the beginning of the game, had the good response. And from that point until about the 7-minute mark, there were good things. Indiana turned the ball over less. Indiana did a better job rebounding. Like, I know no one wants to find silver linings in 17-point victories, and I think we've underlined all the reasons why it's unacceptable. Losses. And we've underlined all the reasons why that's unacceptable, but I'm with you, Coach. Like, there were some signs that, hey, okay, if we can build on this and now, take this and whatever, obviously the coaches have to identify what happened at the end of that game. Was that a mentality issue? Was that just something Nebraska did that we couldn't handle? Who knows? That part has to get fixed. But if you dig in, there were some things to feel a little better about. And I realize that's because the bar is kind of low right now. But I do think there were some of those. And Indiana's willingness to take three-pointers, I appreciated. But having Carlisle and Tucker go 1 for 10, you probably could have done without about 7 of those attempts. Trey Galloway going 3 for 9, he probably didn't need to take a few of those attempts. And
You'll
not
live
just
with
settle
Goody.
and drive.
You'll live with
Goody
3 for 10.
Goody can go 3 for 10 because, and again, if Mbako was in there and he's taking, 7 or 8 or 9 of those 3-pointers, it's a different story. So that, that's the thing is this, like, have we been wanting to see more threes? Yes, just not quite like this.
Those.
Right. Not like this, guys. Can we get a little balance, please? Anyway, Ryan, any moments that jumped out to you?
Yeah, I think that Luke Goody has really become a fan favorite very quickly for a lot of, reasons that doing things that this team's been missing. Not only hitting threes, but his, passion on the sideline, his leadership, his, talking about how much he loves IU, like all of those things. And, they were down 72-67 and he got a steal, went down, Galloway missed a 3, defensive rebound, and Bryce Williams was out on the break. And Woody, with 4:33 left, Goody runs back and blocks a shot. And it was an absolutely perfect block. And it's that kind of stuff, the hustle. He was diving on the floor. He's passionately getting guys involved and trying to be a leader and all of those things. It's stuff we haven't seen at Indiana for a while consistently from one player. We've seen different guys be vocal, but every time he's on the floor, he's trying to lead in every single way he can. And I thought that was just another example. Is he's not athletic, he's not fast, and he goes back against their best player and rejects his shot. I mean, it was just a very, and at that point it's a 5-point game. He's keeping it from becoming a 7-point game, or he could be 8 if he misses it and fouls him and the ball goes in. I mean, it was exactly what you want from a veteran player like that, and Indiana needs to see more of that from other guys too. It was sort of just an example of what Indiana's been missing, and it was all right there. And Indiana didn't lose this game because of anything Luke Goody did. He's the guy pushing them towards winning, and they need more of that from the other guys.
Coach, any moments that you'd like to point out?
No, I don't know if anyone wants a fun one. Connor, Sejan, and Goody kind of were jawing at each other, but they're 2 Fort Wayne dudes that have probably played in a lot of summer basketball. And that's the stuff that you may not – I caught it on the very far corner of the TV. Sejan just hit a 3 and came down, and he was guarding Goody and kind of stuck out his tongue a little bit and winked. And, nothing's better than competing against guys that you know and have played with and respect and lighten the mood a little bit. That was a moment that I caught that I thought was really good. I wanted to mention the throwbacks and the skips and the throwbacks. I thought at halftime we looked like modern college basketball, and we kind of fell away from that in the second half.
And here's the takeaway from that. when they were playing that way for about 25 minutes, it was a really fun game of basketball to watch.
Yes.
And they were letting them score, but you felt like you were playing on the same plane as another team for the first time in a while. And, it didn't last and they fell off, but that was entertaining and interesting and fun to watch.
My
And we
other one
outscored them
was
during that stretch too, by the way.
I got two others. One, I thought Leal's pass for the almost dunk by Tucker. The pass there, I've said all along, I think Anthony Leal's one of the better passers that I've seen. He anticipates, he reads, he throws it away from the defense. But he is kind of a little bit of a no-look pass, and it was perfect in traffic. I thought that was good, a good thing there. And then, Indiana had trouble with that middle ball screen a little bit because they were not letting him take the ball screen. Rice take the ball screen a lot, so you didn't see that action a whole lot. They were forcing it to keep it on one side. But I'm sure we'll talk about Rice's play down the stretch. It was just really nice to see a guard kind of take over like that for Indiana and really keep us in a ball game with some excellent play. And Rice got us going with steals. Both in the first half, you're down and he gets 2 steals and runouts, and then he gets another steal at the start of the second half. Like everyone, we all look at the box score and see points and those things, but those were momentum changers. And the young man has had his ups and downs this year, but he plays in space a lot better than he does slowing down and trying to initiate things. And I think that's maybe something the coaching staff might want to do is to continue to let him play a little more free, because the young man, when he plays free, he's pretty damn good.
No doubt about it. All right, let's talk numbers. Brought to you by Jackson Hewitt Tax Services. If you live in Bloomington or the surrounding areas and you want your taxes done right, contact our friend and Chat Mob Hall of Famer Megan Mahaffey and her team in Bloomington, Bedford, and Martinsville by calling 812-339-3334 or by visiting jacksonhewitt.com. So, Coach, the one stat that I want to mention, we talked about the rebounds, we talked about the turnovers, both of which were better than they have been. If you want to look at where the offense fell, this has been a team that has typically had high assist rates. And typically when this offense is going, the ball's moving, getting assists. Indiana had only 10 assists tonight.
2 in the second half. 2.
Yeah. And so, that really shows you now, when Miles Rice is getting a steal and going in for a bucket, there's not going to be an assist on that. But when you're taking 35 threes and you're making 8 of them and you've only got 10 assists, that suggests that you're not getting quite as many in rhythm off a pass, catch and shoot, which are the highest efficiency shots that you can get. So this is where it's not always just about the attempts. You got to watch the game. You got to dig in, that you got to see the context and understand the context, and so that's where, you need a better combination of those two numbers, basically. But I thought those 10 assists, really showed the disruption that Nebraska was causing with what Indiana wanted to do offensively. And then I thought in certain stretches, Indiana settling a little bit too much for what Nebraska wanted them to do, instead of, either having a counter or being a little bit more persistent in doing what they wanted to do. Coach, what number stood out to you?
Well, when you don't make baskets, you can't get assists. So, the ball's got to go in the basket. We only
coaches
had
always break it down perfectly.
Yeah, but still, 10 assists on 23 field goals is way lower than our typical rate, is what I mean.
True,
so even the ones we made fewer of those were unassisted.
There were some passes that were really good that we clanked too. That's
true.
Could have added to that. I think it's going to go back to defense, and the defensive efficiency when they shoot 1 point or score 1.25 points per possession defensively. So we have a tough night beating their defense, and we missed some 3-point shots. But one thing that good teams do is stop people, because if you have consistent defense and keep people at or below, preferably below 1.0 points per possession, you can withstand a night where you turn the ball over, or you can withstand a night where you miss and shoot a low percentage. But you can't let that kind of shooting, the shooting percentage too is 62%, right? 61.2%. You've got to be more disruptive as a team defensively in order to win basketball games, because that'll cover up for some tough offense.
Ryan?
Yeah, I just think it's piggybacking off that, Coach. Is in the second half, Nebraska shot 57.7% and Indiana shot 27.8% from the field. That's it. 30-point percentage difference, shooting percentage for the two teams. And again, if you're going to be bad, as you said, on offense, play defense. You know, if you're not getting it done on one end, get it done on the other. And Indiana just in that second half, it all went bad, both sides. And so I think that's just a huge one for me. We mentioned the offensive rebounds versus second chance points, 15 offensive rebounds, 10 second chance points. You know, you can't do that. You get second chances, you got to punish them, especially on the road. And anytime a home team, you're playing on the road, makes a mistake, you have to punish them for it, or you're going to lose. And they lost.
Yeah. The last stat I want to mention, you know, when we talk about shot selection, what are the shots and who's taking them? Bryson Tucker and Kanan Carlisle both took more shots. Each of them took more shots than Malik Reneau did, than Oumar Ballo did, than Mackenzie Mbako did. That is not going to be a recipe for Indiana winning on the road. I appreciate their effort. I appreciate their confidence to take those shots. I think Bryson Tucker has a whole lot of want to. He plays hard, and he's got a lot of confidence in himself, and I think that's going to really bode well for his future. But sometimes he needs to chill just a little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
those two and Galloway missed more shots than Reneau took.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, and that's when we talk about the shot diet, that all goes into it. And that's part of the problem, is that part of it was just way out of whack for Indiana tonight. And that helped to contribute to the offensive struggles that didn't allow Indiana to compensate for their defensive struggles. So, all right, guys, let's move on here. Coming up on the assembly call, we will hand out our game balls, hand out our Hoosier Hustle Award, discuss a lingering question or two, and then look ahead to what's next for Indiana, both against Chattanooga and Friday night, because Coach is going to be there in South Bend. So we'll talk about that too. That's next on the assembly call. Stick with us.
This is Jordan Halls, and I never miss a shot or an episode of the Assembly Call.
All right, thank you very much, Jordan. You are listening to the Assembly Call IU postgame show. I'm Jared Morris here with Ryan Phillips and the coach, Brian Tonsoni. We were breaking down Indiana's 85-68 loss to Nebraska. Obviously, we've tried to do our best to point out some of the positives, or at least the positive signs that you could take from the middle part of this game, but like so many in our chat, it is getting very old coming on here and talking about these double-digit losses. Ryan, what was the stat that you found? We haven't 24% of Indiana's Power 4 games under Mike Woodson have been 15-plus point losses. Can't verify that, but qualitatively it feels correct.
Well, he's lost to Nebraska 4 straight times, and all of them have been more than 15-point losses.
And look, double-digit losses are going to happen in the Big Ten. Good teams sometimes lose by double-digit.
Especially on the road.
Yes, it is going to happen. It happens way too much to this program. And so, we can try and find any little positive that we want to, any little building block that we want to. I actually do think there were a few in this game, but at the end of the day, you lost by 17 points. And that just is something that Indiana has to figure out. The leaders on the team, the vets on the team, the coaches, what is causing this to continue to happen? We got to figure it out, because we're not going to be able to build any kind of momentum if that continues to happen. Anyway, time now for our game balls, presented by our friends Allie and James at Bloom Environmental. They want to help you protect your home's air quality, and the best way to do that is to stop water at the source. Voted best of B-Town in basement services for 4 years running, their basement waterproofing and crawl space encapsulation is the best defense your home can have against mold growth and structural damage. Mention Assembly Call, and you get 10% off your system. Call today for a free estimate, or if you just want to hear Allie talk about Curt Cignetti for an hour and all of the Coach of the Year awards that he has won. Ryan, has there been a National Coach of the Year award that Curt Cignetti has not won? I think he's swept them all, hasn't he?
Not that I've seen. I mean, it's an obvious, like how
and if there is one, that invalidates that entire award. So, yes, he's great. Anyway, go to bloomenviro.com. That's bloomenviro.com. All right, guys, let's do game balls. I got to bounce after the game balls because I got to get my son to bed, and hopefully I'll get back here before we're done. It's late, so it should be pretty quick. Let's go with game balls. I will give mine real quick. I'm going to give it to Miles Rice. Led the team in scoring. I thought had obviously some big defensive moments with the 4 steals. Did get driven on at times, but on a night when Indiana overall was pretty bad defensively, he was one of the few bright spots, at least being disruptive. And again, that sometimes you need a guy when things aren't going well. You need a guy to take the game by the scruff of the neck and say, I'm getting us back into this game. It's something that we haven't really had from a guard in a while. All last year it was like, man, if Malik can do it, if Khalil can do it, but so often, and every now and then Trey was able to do it, but didn't have anybody consistently. When Miles Rice committed, that's what we all hoped that he could be. And so we saw some of that tonight. And if he can build on that and start having some more performances like this in Big Ten play, Miles Rice did plenty to go win a road game tonight. It's just he didn't have enough help from everybody else. But that, again, I think is something that you can point to say, hey, if you can get that from your lead guard, you can go win some games. In the second half, when this thing was teetering on the edge, Miles Rice brought us back. And so that was at least nice to see. That was encouraging. And so for that reason, he gets my game ball. Coach. And
I have to go with Miles Rice for all of the reasons that you said that. I mentioned it. I thought he really changed the game for the better with his defense in the first half and prevented us from getting blown out earlier. And then that 13-0 personal run in the second half, I'm going to go with Miles Rice.
Yeah, clean sweep. I thought that stretch, he really kept Indiana in the game and dominated there and showed we can do. I mean, this is what happens when you have a real point guard, a true point guard who can go get you buckets, who can distribute, who can do all the things that a point guard needs to do. And I thought that there have been stretches this season where Rice has been a little timid or maybe just hasn't been in rhythm, and that might just be being uncomfortable with the guys around him and not fitting in yet. But there are times where he looks like an all Big Ten guard. And he certainly has that ability, and he showed it tonight. And like Jared said, he gets a little more help from a few other guys, and this is a different result. But that's the kind of effort and game you need from your point guard on the road to win in the Big Ten. And Indiana got it tonight. They just didn't get a lot of other things.
Yeah, and the whole thing is keep him in space, Coach Woodson. Keep him in space, free him up a little bit. I thought tonight was obviously one of his better games, but that makes Miles Rice have 3 overall, and he's tied with Mackenzie Mbako for 3 game balls, tied at second with tied in third would be Bryson Tucker 2 and Oumar Ballo 2, and Luke Goody and Malik Reneau each have 1. And now it's time for the Hoosier Hustle Award, sponsored by our friends at Evansville Security Services.
Hi, this is Anthony Leal, reminding you to check out our friends at Evansville Security Services. Based in the hometown of IU legend Calvert Chaney, Evansville Security Services has been providing off-duty police officers to businesses and individuals since 2001. In other words, they're in the business of prevention and peace of mind. And remember, prevention cannot be measured. To learn more about how Evansville Security Services can help you preserve your peace of mind by preventing bad outcomes, visit evansvillesecurityservices.com. That's evansvillesecurityservices.com.
All right, Ryan, we'll go to you. Who gets your Hoosier Hustle Award for tonight?
It's Luke Goody. I just thought he was active all over the floor. There are some other guys you could pick, but I just thought that his effort and energy all over the floor earned him that block that I pointed out was, I thought, going to be a huge play in the game. It wound up not being because they couldn't score on offense, down the stretch, but that could have been a turning point, and him, putting that effort in. You saw it all over the court, whether it was, trying to get offensive rebounds, whether it was he had 2 of them, but he was in the mix on some others, whether it was just diving on the floor, a lot of just effort all over the floor. And yeah, he got it for me. I didn't think it was even close, actually. I think there's some other guys you could consider on a normal night, but not tonight.
I'm going to second that and go with Luke Goody again for the Hoosier Hustle Award. I will focus on those offensive rebounds. I think Indiana's limited in second chance points. I think both times Goody got a rebound, they got second chance points. I think the one came back to him for that 3-pointer that Jared mentioned earlier when Ballo got the assist or got the kick out to him at 3. I thought, he has come in and is doing what he can. Yes, the young man struggles one-on-one guarding the ball, gotten a little bit of foul trouble. That's always going to be a situation for him. But I think he obviously deserves the Hoosier Hustle Award this evening. So that is his second Hoosier Hustle Award. And the leader, Trey Galloway with 5, and Kanan Carlisle and Luke Goody now both have 2. Malik Reneau has 1. Miles Rice has 1, and Anthony Leal has 1 for season totals of the Hoosier Hustle Award. And now it's time for a lingering question. And, man, Ryan, I don't know necessarily where to go with it, and I apologize.
There's one thing.
Go ahead, take it.
There's one thing that stands out. Defense. Can they tighten up the defense at all? I mean, this is you're playing Chattanooga next. You should blow them out. I mean, on paper, who knows? You've got a week to stew on this, and then you got to play Chattanooga. And does the defense start to tighten up? And you've got 2 games to work some things out before you get back into Big Ten play. You got Chattanooga and Winthrop, both games of teams I think Chattanooga's 186 and Winthrop's 168-ish in that range. I think that's what they were on KenPom earlier. And then, you're right into the teeth of the Big Ten schedule. You go Rutgers, Penn State, USC, Iowa. It's so weird saying IU or saying USC in the Big Ten. Iowa, Illinois, Ohio State, Northwestern. Like, you're right in the teeth of that schedule right away. And so you're not playing the best teams off the jump, but you're playing, mid-tier Big Ten teams right away that you're going to have to battle that certainly are, I think, better than Nebraska, or at least have the potential to be better than Nebraska. And you're going to have to figure something out, man. It's been bad this year. It's been real bad. It was bad last year. They have to figure out a way to fix this. It's absolutely just a disappointment so far.
I agree, and it's been a disappointment since year one as the defensive efficiency metrics have kept falling each year. It's like, what's the identity? What's our defensive identity? And without that, you can't win games on the road where there's tough environments and the other team's going to be jacked up and come out to big energy, a lot of energy and big runs to start off. How do you get that back? You get it back with defense. That's why we're so appreciative of Miles Rice. Got a couple steals. And that's how you win basketball games. The defense was creating early offense for Indiana. But it just doesn't matter what they're doing stylistically or scheme-wise. They're giving up a lot of points and a lot of easy baskets that needs to be fixed in a hurry. The other lingering question for me is, like, I know it's only 1/3 of the season, but with the non-conference schedule being what it is and the absolute zero down in the Bahamas, you're running out of opportunities. Like, you got to win on the road, and I thought you had to win 5 games on the road, and you had that game right there at 7. And Indiana's got to take advantage of those opportunities in order to get those quad 1 wins. This would have been a quad 1 win on the road. Nebraska sitting at 65 in the net. So the lingering question to me is, defense is a piece of it, but you got to find ways to compete on the road and pull out games that you're in down the stretch.
I mean, that's it. And especially, that's what I was saying about this kind of game is the kind of game they need to win. It's games that they're in on the road against a team that you should beat. If this were a neutral floor, I wouldn't even be a question that you have to beat them. And so those are the teams you need to beat, especially when you're on the road, to take advantage of that. And yeah, it's no secret that this program has had a lot of difficulty playing on the road for the last decade. And it's whatever it is, they have to figure it out. You have to change it. I mean, it's that and the defense. And the other thing I will say is, what do they come out doing from the 3-point line next game? Are they going to all of a sudden just say, nope, no more?
No more.
Shoot 8 this game. Or do they kind of balance that out a little bit? And a little bit of them shooting as many as they did against Nebraska was Nebraska being like, please continue to shoot because you're shooting 20%. I mean, if they had been making a lot of them, Nebraska probably goes out there a little bit more. But
makes an adjustment.
Yeah, they're packing it in, preventing drives, preventing the post-ups. That's why Ballo and Reneau didn't have many shots tonight, and the guys on the perimeter did. And until Indiana proves that it can hit those consistently at a high volume, teams are going to dare them to shoot it. They're just going to absolutely dare them to shoot it. And that's what you saw tonight, I thought.
It
smart by Nebraska.
It brings up another question. Are we capable in this program of adjusting on the fly to what other teams are doing? Obviously we did a little bit to take the threes, but when the threes weren't working, can you get the ball inside? Can you go to multiple things, call different sets to get a hot player? Do you make sure that Rice gets a little more shots when he's hot as opposed to just anyone who had a wide open shot on offense? So a lot of things that have to happen going forward. Okay, so you're listening to the Assembly Call post-game show. We're going to preview upcoming opponents. Saturday, Indiana takes on Chattanooga. And, Ryan, I know absolutely nothing about Chattanooga. I know they're down.
Where's Andy when you need him?
Andy's the guy who usually gives the report. I can maybe try to locate them here real quick on the old KenPom site to talk about. But it's one of those games where you need to win, and you need to win convincingly. But more importantly, you need to take care of the things that aren't working. So Chattanooga right now is 186 in KenPom, sitting at 6-4. They defeated Evansville Thursday last night, 75-67.
Their best win is over Bryant, who's 181st. So
right.
They lost to USC St. Mary's and 250th ranked Austin P. So Indiana should destroy them in this game.
Yes, this should be a win. And again, more than results, need to be fixing some of the things. You did see a better emphasis on rebounding and offensive rebounding. The turnovers were dropped, but we can't play whack-a-mole throughout the Big Ten season and expect to be where we're at. And especially, again, you got 9 more opportunities on the road and some big games at home to get that resume, to get in the tournament and get a seed that you want. And so those things need to be fixed quickly. And then, Ryan, let's talk a little football. Notre Dame at Indiana, 11-1.
I know somebody who's going to the game.
That would be me. I'm pumped up. Amy and I got a little coverage at school so we can get out early to go tailgate. Shout out to Kevin Sims, my principal, for making that happen. A once-in-a-lifetime thing. I got a couple friends that are big Notre Dame people that got me tickets. So
let's hope it's not once in a lifetime. Come on.
Well, okay. First in the 58 years that I've been. So ordered some snow gear. It's going to be 22 to 32 degrees with maybe an inch or two of snow. And I think that I'm hearing a lot of fans. The prices are coming down, people. If you're still thinking about it, they're like $530 with fees. I know that's pricey, but maybe they'll still come down a little bit. But send me any suggestions on how to keep warm. That's the only thing that tailgate lot. My buddy is right outside the stadium. I don't know what the lot is, but
put it out on Twitter, Coach.
We're gonna go to 2 or 3 different tailgates. My nephew's in law school at Notre Dame. He's having a tailgate, and my wife has some relatives having a tailgate. So, yeah, Jen, that's a good idea. That's probably not going to happen, but thanks for the suggestion, Jen, in the chat. Your thoughts on the game, Notre Dame, Indiana?
What's interesting about it is both teams' strengths align with the other team's strengths. It's Notre Dame runs the ball. Indiana's got a great run defense. Indiana runs the ball. Notre Dame's got a great run defense. And so I think that it's and Notre Dame's defense across the board is excellent. And that Marcus Freeman does a great job. But I will say the other thing about this matchup that mirrors is that both teams played relatively weak schedules. And so you don't really know how they're going to match up. They don't have, a lot of common ways to sort of line them up against each other and say who will do well. Notre Dame, heavy favorite at home. On paper, they should win. But Indiana has surprised people all year. Indiana, without 2 special teams mistakes, played Ohio State pretty close. Other than that, And Ohio State is definitely better than Notre Dame. I've seen Notre Dame a couple of times. Ohio State's a better team, and Indiana, for a lot of it, stood toe-to-toe with them. So I think you don't know what you're getting. I would love to be super confident and say, I do think the weather plays in Indiana's favor. I don't think it plays against them. I think that the any weather stuff plays for the underdog. Anything weird that's happening plays for the underdog because the favored team just wants it to play out like it's supposed to. So yeah, I think Notre Dame's certainly the favorite. I would love to be super confident that Indiana's going to beat them. I'm not, but it'll be so much fun just to watch it.
Yeah, I can't stop thinking about it. I found where we're going to park and all that good stuff. But I think Indiana has done a good job. They battled Michigan. They were up 14 against Michigan and then just found a tough half and hung on to win that. And I did. I thought they competed against Ohio State. They obviously were outclassed a little bit in that game. But if they don't give up those two special teams, they don't give up as many sacks and can do some different things, and hopefully they've learned from it there. So it's a whole lot of fun. And if anyone's up there and you run into me, if you can even tell it's me, because I'm going to just be head to toe in gear and just have a little opening in my mouth so I can get that antifreeze in on a regular basis to keep me warm too. But we're looking forward to having a good time there at Notre Dame. That game is next Friday night at 8:00. It's on ESPN, I believe.
Have you been to football games there, Coach?
Yes, several times. I grew up about 30 minutes away from Notre Dame, so I'd go over there every once in a while. And like I said, a really good friend of mine's a lawyer in South Bend and is a big donor and ticket holder, so we go up every other year. Great atmosphere. You either love or hate Notre Dame, even if it's not your top school. But tradition in college football is really, really cool. And the Golden Dome and the band, and it's a pretty cool atmosphere. And at least they get to do it one more time because then they won't have to travel down to New Orleans after Indiana beats them. So Notre Dame fans, if you're the reversible jersey people, you root for, or jacket people or whatever. I don't know. But have fun if you are going to the game, and if you're at home, cheer loudly. Okay, you're listening to the Assembly Call IU Postgame Show. Remember to check out our friends at Home Field Apparel. Use the promo code HOME23 at checkout to get 15% off your first order. And I don't know if they're having any more specials here before Christmas is getting real close, but they've had a lot of promo codes as well. So, Ryan, your last call for tonight's loss to Nebraska.
Yeah, I think it's just where is the defense? And the answer is it's really can't be found at the moment. I just think that I said it to start. At some point, you got to start showing up for 40 minutes in these road games, or you're not going to win them. And this is a game that Indiana should beat a team like Nebraska. The talent advantage is off the charts in Indiana's favor, and Nebraska beat them by 17. That's an indictment of everything about this program at the moment. And again, it's early. They can turn it around, but you have to show up for these games and win them and bank those road wins early and bank them against teams you should win. You should beat in games you should win. And so I just think that, this has been a pattern of losing games that they should win and losing road games against teams they should beat. It needs to change. And I think that people are getting fed up with this kind of result. Long season ahead still, but they got to turn it around, and they got to start turning it around now. Talent is not the issue this year. You cannot point to spots on the roster and say, well, if they had this, they'd be better. They've got it. It's a matter of putting it to good use, and it's a matter of getting these guys in the right positions to win games. And it's a matter of those guys themselves putting themselves in the right positions to win games. And so we'll see what happens. And certainly the next two games should be blowouts, and then we're going to get back into Big Ten play. But when they get back into Big Ten play, they need to have a sense of urgency. You cannot just feel your way through and in mid-January still be learning each other and still figuring it out. This needs to start to turn now.
It's all about opportunities. I'll piggyback on what you said. Where's the defense? You have to have defense, and you have to take advantage of your opportunities to go where you want to go. It is not good enough just to make the tournament. You want to make the tournament and get a good seed and play into the second weekend and even further, and you have to be able to guard. Very rarely do you find teams that cannot guard that make it to where they want to be. and the road presents opportunities. And you got to take care of business at home too. And if you're not defending at home, you can give up, those opportunities to win against good teams at home. So take care of business. When you have a game, it's a 1-point game, and you're the more talented team with 7 minutes to go, find a way to scratch and claw your way and stay in it. At the first sign that got 6-7, there was very little done by the players, staff, whatever, the whole program to get that game back to a one-possession game where you can win maybe at the buzzer. So, again, we're just calling for better basketball, especially on the defensive side, but hope the next 2 games we will find it soon as a program. All right, that's going to do it for us. If you want us to see the show live, be part of the live chat, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/assemblycall. Don't forget to go to substack.assemblycall.com to join our free email newsletter. Special thanks to Bob Thompson for the music you hear on the show. Special thanks to John Ringer of rigdesign.com for designing our logo. Thanks to producer Eddie for running the show behind the scenes, and thank you for listening. We'll be back again to talk IU hoops this Saturday after the Chattanooga game. Until then,
take it from me, Christian Watson. Keep your elbows in and your eyes on the rim. Go Hoosiers.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
Here I come, Mrs. Stansoni.
I think they've gotten enough show.
There is no excuse for bad defense.
There isn't.
Thanks for showing up, everybody.
Thank you. Yep. Have a good weekend. We'll see you on Saturday, and good luck to Indiana football.
Later, guys.
See you, Ryan.